All right, hello and welcome to our first video on muscular strength and endurance, one of our 6 components of fitness, which is a important part of being a fit person and a physically capable and well person. So thanks for joining me. We're going to be going through several things that will help you better understand muscular strength and endurance, and first of all, what it is and why it's important to you, or why it should be important to you, and then also how to improve your muscular strength and endurance. So thanks for joining me. If you were assigned any study guides or to take notes along with this video, make sure you do so. Make sure you fill it out as you go. As you have questions, feel free to contact your course instructor with any questions that you might have. So let's get into just a few of these things today, and then in our next video we'll get into a little bit more. So tune back in and make sure to join for more of the stuff that's going to go along with this. We call this a little chalk talk lesson because what basically we're doing is we're putting a few key concepts on the board. I'm going to talk you through some of these things and make sure that you hopefully can understand them. If you have any questions, these terms, if you search some of these terms on the web, you can often find other really good resources that will help elaborate on this. And in the course, you may even find some links with other suggestions to be able to dive in deeper into any of these subjects. Now, if you are fascinated with muscular strength and endurance, you can actually take entire courses that help you better understand human anatomy and physiology, as well as exercise physiology, which is how the body works. So hopefully this will just be a nice little introduction to some things that you might be interested in a little bit more in depth later in your life. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is resistance training. Okay, resistance training is basically how we train our muscles to be stronger and to have better endurance. We want to have kind of a balance of both of those two things. We don't want to just be all power and no endurance. And on the other side, we don't want to just be all endurance and no power. For the most part, if you're training one, you also pick up little gains in the other as well, but you can differentiate between the two. The way we measure muscular strength and endurance is we want to see how much weight or how much of a load you can maneuver in different ways one time. That's kind of what we call a max, okay? A max or a maximum load in strength training. So you might max, we might want to see what the strength of your legs are, what your calf muscles are, what your ankle is, what your chest, your core, your arms, and so on and so forth, your shoulders, just for the sake of knowing what you're capable of doing as an athlete or as a person that's just trying to be fit in your lifestyle. You want to be strong enough to be able to do the activities that you want to be able to do, and so understanding how to measure your strength and how to improve that output is very important. A lot of times physical therapists or even doctors will use machines that will test the strength of your muscles as well as the ability for your muscles to endure. And there's different ways to test how long a muscle can continue repeatedly doing a movement. And some of those diagnostics are extremely important in helping understand where you are at, either from a competitive side, an ability side, or even a rehabilitative side if you're recovering from like an injury. So resistance training is something that we use because that's how our muscles work. So let me explain to you a few things about how muscles actually work. You can see over here my lovely drawing right here. This is hopefully you'll understand how this looks like a little bit of a muscle. Basically, you have your muscle mass in the middle, which is composed of many hundreds, thousands, even millions of, well, of course, millions, but of muscle cells, okay? So throughout here, you have all these muscle cells. At the end of a muscle, you have what are called tendons, which is a connective tissue which attaches a muscle to a bone. You need to know what a tendon is, okay? So tendons attach muscles to bones. There's another word that you need to know, which is called a ligament. And ligament is spelled like this. Ligaments attach bones to other bones, okay? So know what those three things are, because they all play a role when we talk about muscular strength and endurance, as well as your body's ability to move and stay healthy, okay? Your muscles your muscles have a point of insertion as well as a point of origin. The origin is the point where the muscle, the tendon, originates, and the point of insertion is where it attaches onto another bone or part of your body. And these two things basically keep this muscle attached to two things, and when this muscle contracts, it moves the bones to which it's connected. Okay, so it's all about contraction and relaxation. When a muscle contracts, okay? It causes a flexing movement, okay? And when that muscle relaxes, it allows the joint to go back to a more of an elongated position, okay? The way your muscles are stimulated is by basically nerve cells, which then apply to tiny nerve fibers that are throughout your muscle and around your muscle. And when when your nerves send a signal to your muscle, the muscle can contract and it can release, and you actually have a lot of ability to determine how much control and how much contraction and how much force, with how much force this muscle is going to contract. So this is basically how the contraction of a muscle works. Obviously, the more muscle cells you have and the stronger those muscle fibers are, the more ability you have to jump higher, to run faster, to be stronger. And so what we want to do is to be able to train these muscles. We can do what's called resistance training and add what we call a load to that muscle to help stimulate growth. So when we do this repeatedly and we do this consistently, this load and this resistance training over time can help lead to strengthening of muscles as well as increased muscle mass. When we build our muscles or increase their ability or their size, that's called hypertrophy. And if we don't do anything, if we stay too sedentary and we're sitting around too much and not using those muscles, they will actually diminish, and we call that atrophy. Okay, you need to know the difference between those two terms, hypertrophy and atrophy. All right. So we use a lot of different machines to be able to help make some of these things happen. To help when we're talking about resistance training. A few different things that we sometimes use. We might use exercise machines. If you've ever been to a fitness center or to a gym, you'll see a lot of different machines that target a specific muscle group. So you might have something for your legs for a specific movement. You might have something for your arms or for your shoulders for a specific movement. And those exercise machines are really fantastic because they help you focus on one thing. They're also really simple and very safe and easy to operate. It's easy to change the weight on them. The only kind of downside is, but it can also be a positive, is it doesn't translate quite as much to real world strength and unpredictability as you might find out in regular life, you know, with the inconsistencies and just surprises that you can sometimes run into. Okay, but exercise machines are something that we definitely use and have some benefits to them. Free weights are another important thing that a lot of people use to increase their muscular strength and endurance. Free weights are a little bit, you got to be a little bit more careful. You have to have some space to be able to store them. You need to make sure you use clips on the end of when you put the weights on the bar. So there's some safety things and just a little bit of just moving stuff around that can be a little bit more of a hassle, but that also adds some element of exercise to your actual routine by setting those weights up and taking them off and putting them away and things like that, which also gets your heart rate up, which improves cardiovascular health and also helps lower excessive body fat. So that's not necessarily a totally bad thing. Because you're using free weights, you have to use a little bit more balance, a little bit more coordination, which kind of translates more to real world, kind of better real world muscular strength and fitness. There's a lot being said about strength bands. Strength bands can be a really great way to train your muscles that are basically these big rubber bands, these big rubber elastic bands that can take a lot more than obviously your little rubber bands, but the principle is the same, right? They stretch and they allow you to flex a muscle or contract a muscle and then extend it, and that's that's a nice way to train. You have different strengths, different thicknesses of those rubber bands, of those strength bands, and you can find those at lots of different sporting goods places as well, and there's lots of great systems that go along with it to teach you how to use those. Another one is body weight, just using your body weight to actually be the load that you're going to use. So for example, plyometrics is a form of exercise that stimulates hard contractions and movement of your muscles to be able to help stimulate growth, coordination, and balance, and even just using your body weight can be a really great way to increase muscular strength and muscular endurance. And there's lots of ways to do that out there if you start looking. So things that are important to have or to understand when we're talking about, let me just move this just a bit. When we're talking about resistance training, you need to understand full range of motion. The term full range of motion basically means when when you're getting into strength training, you want to make sure that you use the entire range of motion of your joint. So for example, if you're doing a bicep curl, okay, this is the exercising of your bicep muscle, which is right here, all right? Your bicep allows you to straighten your arm all the way out to here fully extended, and you can flex it all the way up to almost touching your shoulder. Okay, so full range of motion is basically saying when I do a lift, I want to make sure that I go all the way through the full range of motion so that I strengthen that muscle evenly and I keep the flexibility that I need to have in my muscles as well. And this full range of motion involves both two types of movements, what's called concentric movement as well as eccentric movement. Concentric movement is when the muscle is contracting. So think of contracting, concentric, it's when it contracts. And eccentric is when it extends, E for extending. Think of that, eccentric and extending. So when that muscle extends, okay, that's the other half of that movement. Now, when we strength train, when we do strength training, we want to have control through the concentric portion as well as through the eccentric phase as well. And what that does is through both of those phases, you're actually adding strength, and there's different styles of strength training that actually focuses on different parts of those, both the concentric side as well as the eccentric side, and you can get benefits from training both phases of that. There's also, you need to understand the difference between static versus dynamic. Dynamic means basically movement, right? Dynamic is talking about movement. When we talk about flexibility, there's dynamic stretching where you're using movement to help stretch those muscles. Static is talking about more of actually just like in a flex state and maintaining that flexed load on that muscle while it continues to exert itself, and that can actually stimulate growth and development as well. Okay, just a couple other things real quick. Slow twitch versus fast twitch muscle fibers. You might have heard these terms before. Basically, your body has two different types of fibers in your actual muscle cells, okay? And you can train those fibers to be more capable. Slow twitch muscle fibers are more of those endurance fibers, right? They can repeat a motion over and over and over again. They move not quite as quickly. They don't contract quite as quickly as a fast twitch muscle fiber, but they do have the ability to endure and continue that repetition a little bit more. And then your fast twitch muscle fibers are very powerful. They're very quick acting, and you can do different things in your strength training to help develop both of those attributes. All right. So the question is, well, how do I take some of these methods, and what is it that I'm supposed to do? What kind of lifts am I supposed to do? In this course, you'll have opportunities to see a little bit of an introduction to how to do some of this stuff. You know, what kind of lifts do you need to be doing? And when we talk about FIT, we use this term all the time in our course, which stands for frequency, intensity, time, and type. So basically what that's going to tell you, and we'll cover this in a future video, is first of all, how often should I be doing this? Okay, how much intensity should I use? How much time should I be doing them for? And what type of activities, lifts, or movements should I be doing to be able to get stronger? You know, strength training is one of those things that a lot of people kind of shy away from because they may have never done it before. If you come from an environment where maybe it just wasn't a normal thing for you to be into the gym, you should never feel intimidated to get involved in strength training because everybody can benefit from strength training. You don't have to be a pro athlete to benefit from strength training. Strength training is for everyone, right? It allows you to be more capable, to feel better. It helps your body just be healthy in so many different ways. And so hopefully the point of the videos that you're going to get in this course are to help you feel comfortable with what the environment is all about in like a scenario where you would be using exercise machines, free weights, strength bands, body weight training, to not be intimidated to get out and try and do that. Strength training is for every single one of us. All right, so we'll cover the ins and outs of how to do this in future videos. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about today is also why. So why should I take the time to get into strength training? Okay, so let's talk about this. First of all, the effects and the benefits, right? Some of the effects of strength training are you're going to get more muscle strength and muscle mass. Okay, and you can actually train different parts of that. You can also gain strength without actually necessarily adding lots of muscle mass. Sometimes people are like, I don't want to get, you always hear this little, I don't want to get too huge. I love that joke on a movie where the guy says, yeah, I don't want to get too big, so he doesn't ever lift weights. The point is I can actually strengthen my muscles without getting huge muscle gains in muscle mass. But a lot of people do actually want to also increase that muscle mass because that also means you're more capable, okay? It's not necessarily always just about the look. right? Better coordination, okay? Strength training is going to help you be more coordinated to do everyday activities more easily, okay? So that's obviously a benefit. Stronger connective tissue and joints, okay? As you do strength training, it actually strengthens your tendons, your ligaments, those things that we talked about over here, right? Your muscles, your ligaments, and your tendons are all going to get stronger as you train them as well, which is going to help protect your joints and help you have better quality of life. Let's talk about better circulation, improved body composition. Okay, strength training is actually going to help you keep your body fat at a healthier level. It'll also improve your circulation throughout your body, which has many benefits for both your ability as well as for your immune system, for staying hydrated and just healthy and making sure everything's where it's supposed to be. So a lot of great effects from strength training. Some of the other benefits of strength training is it just allows you to be physically more able to do the things that you would want to do in your life, okay? It also reduces risk and likelihood of injuries, which we talked a bit about with your joints, okay? It can prevent and help manage some chronic diseases. If you have a chronic disease, or if you want to avoid certain chronic diseases throughout your life, man, strength training can really help you minimize some of the effects of certain chronic diseases and can help you actually feel a little bit better. And it's certainly something you have some control over, which with some chronic diseases, sometimes you get the feeling that, man, what do I have control over? And there's strength programs for almost everybody out there, okay? Even if you're extremely limited in your ability to move, there's something out there for you. So keep looking if you haven't found something yet, or reach out to your teacher and start asking around, because there's a lot of great resources out there. And then the last thing is just, it helps you feel better, right? It always is nice to feel well, to feel healthy, to feel strong. And we all want that for ourselves and for our family and loved ones, people we care about. Hopefully this video has been a nice introduction to strength, to muscular strength and endurance training. We'll get into some more stuff about how to do that and as we go forward. So if you've got a quiz that's associated along with this video, be sure to take that quiz, do your best, and we'll see you at the next video.